What causes inflation? Since the financial crisis of 2008 and the Great Recession, investors and executives have grown accustomed to a world of low interest rates and low inflation. No longer, in 2021, inflation began rising sharply in many parts of the world, and in 2022, the US saw its worst inflation in decades. In October 2022, the International Monetary Fund warned that inflation combined with central banks' interest rate hikes designed to fight it could threaten the entire global economy, and good reason to understand the causes inflation and how to manage this gradual loss of purchasing power. What is inflation? Inflation is defined as a rise in prices across an economy, and in 2022 it has emerged as one of the biggest threats to global prosperity. When prices rise unexpectedly, money doesn't go as far as it used to, which can trigger demand for rise, which then causes more inflation. When prices rise really quickly, the basic functioning on an economy can break down. For example, in periods of hyperinflation, people rush out to spend money the moment they get paid, because every hour they wait to spend means higher price. For the reason, central banks usually set an inflation target and use interest rates to ensure the price reaches a predetermined pace. A little bit of inflation is typically harmless if it is when the lie expects. The US Federal Reserve aims for a 2% increase in price each year. But since the spring of 2021, prices have been rising much faster than that in the US and much of the world. High inflation has pushed many central banks to start raising interest rates, which threatens to slow global growth and could even induce a recession in some countries in 2023. To understand what central banks are doing and what effect their action might have on business, it helps to start with the basics of inflation and what causes it. What causes inflation? At its roots, inflation is driven by too much demand relative to supply. More precisely, a formed feature being Bernanke writes in his microeconomics textbook with Andrew Abel. Inflation occurs when the gross quantity of goods demand at any particular price level is rising more quickly than the agreed quantity of goods supplied at the price level. But what causes demand to outpace supply? That can happen for a few different reasons. And to understand them, it helps to consider the three pillars of macroeconomics that David Motte expresses in this book, a concise guide to macroeconomics, what managers, executives, and students need to know. Most structures the book based off about how much an economy produces money, how much currency people have or can easily get their hands on, and expectation what people will happen next. All three have a role in inflation. Supply shocks. Inflation often happens because of supply shocks, major disruption to an important economic input like energy. For example, if a lot of oil fields to stop producing or because of a war, the price of energy increases. Since energy is a critical input into almost every other good, price of other things rise too. This is often called cost-push inflation. In theory, a decrease in the supply of a good should lead to higher price, fewer buyers, and new equilibrium in practice. Things are more complicated, and supply shock might set of a sustained increase in price because there aren't many good alternatives, and so the price keeps getting bid up. Or it might because there's uncertainty around when and whether the supply shock will end, or because the initial price increase changed people's expectation about future inflation. Money supply. Then there is the demand side of the equation. An increase in the money supply will tend to cause inflation, as much explains. With more cash in their pockets and banks accounts, consumers often find new reasons to buy things. He writes in the book, but unless the supply of goods and services and increased in the meantime, the consumer's mounting demand for products will simply beat up price, thus stock inflation. Economists sometimes say that inflation rates when too much money is chasing too few goods. This is sometimes referred to as demand pull inflation. The money supply theory of inflation was popularized by economist Milton Friedman, who famously said that always and everywhere at a monetary phenomenon. While it is true that increases in the money supply can cause inflation, Friedman's claim was too strong. In fact, if you had to boil the cause of inflation down to one thing, it might mean expectation and spirals. In many models of inflation, the cause isn't an increase in the money supply but an unanticipated increase in the money supply. The institution is that everyone knows demand will increase because there is more money flowing. Then supply will increase to match it. It is the unexpected increase in demand or decrease in supply. That's it of inflation. Along those same lines, how much inflation people expect affect how much inflation we actually get. As price of goods rise, workers aren't able to buy as much with their wages. So, if people expect higher inflation, they will bargain for higher wages to maintain their living standard. But if business expect this war inflation, they will raise price further, which can cause what is called watch price spiral. Then drives for the inflation, then fairly watch price spiral are fairly rare. Because inspection matters so much, central banks work hard to maintain their credibility on inflation and to keep inflation expectation anchored. That basically means they want to convince everyone that they will be able to meet their inflation target, so that people don't worry about month-to-month inflation that just assume that inflation will rise with whatever the central bank says it will. Unemployment and inflation. Recall that the root inflation is too much demand relative to supply. Another way of thinking about the same idea is to ask how much slack there is in the economy at any point in time. An economy produces stuff using people's time and ingenuity, machines and other infrastructure and natural resources. But for various reasons, economies sometimes don't produce as much as they could. There are a lot of workers without jobs, factories that aren't producing anything, etc. In the wake of the 2008 financial crisis, this hike on unemployment happened in many countries. There was a lot of slack in the economy, meaning a lot of economy resources weren't being put to use. Ok, compañeros y profesor, ese artículo de qué es la inflación habla que la crisis financiera se da desde el 2008, cuando los inversionistas se habían acostumbrado a un mundo de bajas tasas de intereses y baja inflación, pero luego en octubre del 2022 el Fondo Monetario Internacional advirtió que la inflación combinada con los aumentos de las tasas de interés de los bancos podría amenazar toda la economía mundial. Entonces, en teoría, la inflación es un aumento de los precios en una economía y en el 2022 eso se convirtió en una de las mayores amenazas para la economía y el avance pues o prosperidad mundial. También se hablaron de las causas, que era lo que causaba la inflación, y la inflación es impulsada por demasiada demanda en relación con la oferta. Entonces ocurre cuando la cantidad agregada de bienes demandados o cualquier nivel de precios en particular aumenta más rápidamente que la cantidad agregada de bienes ofrecidos a ese nivel de precios. Eso es básicamente lo que se habla pues como el artículo. Espero que le hubiera sido útil. Hasta pronto.